Hello, empowered woman. Welcome to this episode of the Empowered Woman Podcast. And today I talk to Dominique CHRISTINA, poet, author, mother, TedX speaker, and National Poetry Series winner. She shared her story of how her career in poetry and writing came to be, and also the importance of inner work and vulnerability. In her words, people don't reach out to strong folks, the ones that show they have it all together. And this is what her journey in the industry has taught her. And she reads an amazing poem on air as well. You won't want to miss this. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Empowered Woman Podcast, the #1 show on personal development for women entrepreneurs. If you're wanting to stop spinning your wheels, trying random personal development resources, and actually boost your confidence to show up fearlessly in your life and business, this is the place for you. I am so glad that you're here. My name is Marta Spurk, and I'm your host, triplet mom, woman empowerment coach, and all things motivation extraordinaire. Welcome again, and let's dive into today's episode. But wait, before we get to this amazing interview, speaking of finding your strength and vulnerability, earlier this week I announced a free webinar I've put together to help you become more consistent in creating content and promoting it on social media to grow your business. I'm calling it Repurpose Like a Boss, and I will hold nothing back, teaching you how I've become so present and visible across the board with a simple process of repurposing. Register at martaspurk.com/webinar. The link is in the show notes. Hi, Dominique. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I am so excited. So just a little background story. I came across you pretty recently when I attended the first TedX Mile High virtual edition because of pandemic and all the things. And you were by far my favorite speaker. I just loved the energy, the passion. It's just not just the words that are amazing, but just really the passion behind all of it. And I resonated so much with it and with you, and we connected on Instagram, and you accepted my invitation to be on the show, and I am super pumped. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Okay. Dominique CHRISTINA, poet, author, mother, I don't know, agitator probably, troublemaker. I'm, former educator. I was a classroom teacher for 9 years,
Wow.
High school, and taught creative writing at the collegiate level. After that, worked for the State Department inexplicably for a minute, and then really just had to acknowledge in a real way that I was a writer and that I wasn't going to really be happy if I wasn't pouring into that gift every day. And so it's been quite a journey because I didn't envision it for myself early on. I know it wasn't like what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a poet kind of thing. That never occurred to me actually. Wow. My father's from Panama. My mother is from the Deep South, Creole folks from the Deep South. Their backstory, particularly my mother's, really informed so much for me because being in the Jim Crow South, particularly if you are sort of rebelling against that system, landmines are kind of everywhere. And so I was raised by folks who were really noble and really regal and overachieving, super duper educated folks who were also, anger had been trained out of them. It was a resource they couldn't access anymore, which also informs so much about how I show up in the world and how I write, everything. Did I answer the question?
Yes, no, of course. And you got my wheels turning here with other follow-up questions that I have. When was kind of like the turning point for you to have this realization of this is not my path. My path is different, and start pursuing that? And also being a mom, was that after becoming a mom? Because for me, becoming a mom changed a lot for me, and created all these realizations out of the need of really figuring out my purpose so that I knew what I was passing along. So I'm curious to know how that happened for you.
Yeah, I was a little girl looking around the room, and I have a deeply matriarchal family. And all of the women are impressive and appropriate. Like they are, no one is cussing ever. No one is raising their voice ever. No one is showing up in anger ever. In many cases, they won't even cry in front of you. They are just very buttoned up, very stitched up women, impressive women, right? But I was a little girl looking at that template and feeling like I was doing womanness incorrectly, because I already was loud, and I almost fetishized cuss words because I wasn't hearing it ever. So I would like leave the house and like just be just letting it fly, on the way to school and stuff, because I was just so like, I don't know. I was hungry for, a more feral demonstration of womanhood, I think. And so I had that, realizing I was different from the women that I come from, which created some dissonance for me for sure. The poetry part is completely accidental. I was a volleyball player. We knew I was a volleyball player by the time I was 11, because I was 6 feet at 11.
Wow.
And I knew it was going to pay for college. I knew, and I had poured so much into the sport. It really was kind of an identity for me. I wasn't even thinking about a next move. My plans were pretty laid out for me. I was going to play volleyball. I was going to go to the Olympics. After the Olympics, I was going to play in Japan. Then after Japan, I was going to probably coach volleyball until, burnout. And then I'd retire, and as it happened, I broke my navicular bone. It's a football injury. It's like wrist to thumb, right? It's when you break your fall. When you're falling, you break your fall. I shattered my navicular bone in opening ceremony in 1996 in Atlanta. And all of a sudden now I have to think about who else I might be other than a volleyball player. So I go back to, I'm thinking about my next move, and I finally have the opportunity to pick a class that's not about, does this class happen before volleyball practice, or does this, class interfere with the Final Four or whatever. Right. I pick a class that I was interested in. And there was a professor on campus who I was completely enamored with, purely because he walked around cussing all the time. He had uncombed hair, this wild hair. And he always wore tie-dye shirts and Birkenstock sandals. And I was just so fascinated by him. And I'm like, well, whatever he's teaching, I'm going to take that. And he was teaching creative writing. So everything changed. My trajectory changed because he invited me to tell the truth. And no one had ever really done that before. My conditioning was to make sure that you don't offend anyone in the room, that you're palatable, that you're appropriate, and he was like, let it fly. And I had never been given that opportunity. And once I engaged it, it was like, oh, this is all I want to do.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I resonate a lot with that in some ways, coming from a very Christian, strict family. My mom is a pastor. And so even though she's a part Italian, so she's got a little crazy in her and a little bit of cursing, but it's behind closed doors. So the whole idea of being proper and not saying the truth and not really feeling open, or the ability or the freedom, I guess I should say, to do that is something that I resonate. And I think for me, moving away, because I'm from Brazil, and I think maybe the Latin, I resonate with the overall culture and ideals and things like that of being proper and having that strict female role of the things you can do, the things you can't do, and things like that. So I totally hear what you're saying. And for me, marrying an American, moving, it was kind of like, wow, breaking free. And I'm an English major too. So going to college here in the US and all the things really opened up lots of different things for me, and finding really my identity detached from what I grew up in. So it's so interesting that is your path. And how about the poems, and did it start then in college? How did it all come about with competitions and writing? And I want to hear more about the journey.
Yeah, so I start writing when I'm 22 in undergrad and at my senior year, and I'm addicted to it. I'm completely obsessed with it. And I also was very clear about the fact that no one was ever going to hear these poems. I was not interested in performing. I wasn't interested in being seen. I wanted to just get it out of my body. That's it. I just wanted it out. I wanted to write it down and then tuck it away somewhere where it wasn't a noose around my neck. And so I fully expected to die an old woman and have my grandkids like happen upon this trunk, you know what I'm saying, under my bed, and discover these volumes and go, oh my God, I didn't know, you know, grandmama was a poet.
Mm-hmm.
That was the vision that I had.
Okay.
Because the process was so, and is still so personal to me. It just feels like I'm excavating, like it's soul work. So I never expected it to resonate with anyone. I never even really expected to share it with anyone. So I sat on all the things. I wrote every day, and I still write every day, no matter what's going on. I do not take a day off. I had a notepad on my stomach while I was giving birth. Like, I'm serious. I don't play. I write every day because I kind of go crazy if I don't. So I'm writing religiously, and you know, I'm committed to that process, but it's still like mine. It's secretive. And I'm going to venues, and people are reading poems out loud. Many friends of mine reading poems out loud, and I enjoy watching them, but I have no interest whatsoever. They knew I was writing though, in the back of the room, furtively writing, you know? And so peer pressure happened to me. All of these writer friends were like, you should at least try, give it a shot, you know? And so after probably a year of wearing me down, I should clarify, I started writing when I was 22. The first time I said anything out loud, I was 34.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it took 12 years to sort of be ready to have my voice in a room like that. But it's not about a fear of public speaking. I'm not shy at all. I don't have any of that. It's about, are you ready to tell those stories in a room full of strangers? Like, have you done the work well enough that no one can hurt you with it? You know, that process took a long time. So, yeah, so I was 34. So I started reading poems, you know, in rooms, but I was like surrounded by friends, and they of course were encouraging me and all of that. Colorado has a very successful writing community, and they were going to the National Poetry Slam Championship every year, and they were always on final stage every year, which is a huge accomplishment, because that's the National Poetry Slam Championship invites up to 80 poetry teams from all over the country. Each team has about 5 people on them, right? So it's 400 poets all wanting to be the team, right? And the way that you qualify is you win a slam in your city, then you win another one, then you win another one. If you win 3, then you qualify to slam off. Everyone who's won a slam on one night, they all get together, compete with each other. The top 5 scores make the team that goes to nationals. Okay. So in 2011, I tried out for the team that represented Colorado and made the team. I was the only woman on the team. It was 4 men and me. And we went to Boston that year and we won. Wow. When we won, I was thrilled. I was surrounded by men that I knew and grew up with and all of that. But then the next international competition is Women of the World, and I was the only woman on the team. Nobody told me that that meant I was going to have to do that. Now I'm not flanked by anybody. It's me. I'm standing out there by myself. And I won. And so that was really the path. I just found myself strangely and inexplicably on these big stages, getting a lot of light, you know. That was really the journey. And then from there, it was like I had to stop teaching because I was touring full time, and book deals and all of that stuff kind of came. But it all came as a result of me slamming.
That's amazing. Well, and I want to know more about the topics and the things you're more drawn to, and talk about your books as well. But one thing that I'm interested in asking beforehand, because you're talking about this, you know, the creative process and the inner work that it took around 12 years, right? If I'm doing the math correctly, for you to feel comfortable. And you're saying it's not that you're afraid of public speaking. It was about sharing the story in a room full of strangers. I'm assuming you're familiar with an organization called Creative Mornings. Have you heard of it? Okay. So I got to speak to one of their events for the Denver chapter. And I talked a lot about insecurity and how being a creative, there's the fear of being judged and of being criticized when you put your work out there, which is something so intimate, right? When it comes from your heart. And I resonate a lot with that idea, and with the story of being prepared. What do you think were some of the things that helped you with the creative process and in these 12 years? Because I know a lot of things take time in life. I understand that because we grow and we become more mature, we have experiences, but I've come to realize that the inner work, if we take the time to foster that self-awareness, which the creative process takes us there, of course, because it's so introspective, it has a way of moving us farther, faster. Do you agree with that? Elaborate.
You know, art is provocation. And so it really is a lifting of the veil. You know, you're moving all of this bramble out of the way to get to the soul of a thing, the heart of a thing, the essence of a thing. And so that work is brave work, brave, necessary work. That's why for me, creatives, artists are doing soul work all the time.
Yes.
We're doing that deep dive all the time. And I am constantly surprised because I don't write with an agenda. Like I have to explain this all the time because people always ask about my writing process, and I always explain it and then feel like I have helped exactly no one. But I never go, today I'm going to write about trees, right? Or ever. I actually can't get after anything like that. So I just sit in front of the computer every day and wait. That's what I do. I wait for the words to come. They always come. Usually that first line is a line I don't understand. And then I keep writing so that I can make sense of that first line. So it's like falling in the dark for me. I'm trusting the process. I'm trusting that arms will jut out to grab me, to hold me, or to pull me into clarity. But I'm falling. I'm 100%. I'm falling in the writing. I never know what's going to come from me. But that's kind of been a necessary process for me because without a ton of work, I am a very guarded person. Not outwardly guarded, inwardly guarded. I'm very guarded around like my stories and my experiences and what my brain does with all of that data. And so I think my childhood facilitated a lot of secret keeping. As a poet, I don't want to keep those secrets. The only way I can sort of extract them is to sort of let my consciousness take over so that I'm not in my own way. I need my consciousness to take over. And every time, invariably, a story is peeking out that has been needing light on it for 10 years or 5, and I just trust it and follow it all the way down, Yeah, I mean, it's a doozy of a thing. I just think that you have to be ready. The work is less about creative writing and performance and all of that stuff. It's about being truly ready to name and in some cases to unname, right?
Yes.
It's about being ready to do that. And to do it for you, not because you're hoping that you'll get something from the audience or,
right.
because I can't care about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I totally get what you're saying. It starts with you, and that's a foolproof way of getting something out of the audience anyways, right? That is the path, instead of, let me write about this. I was just
Yeah.
nodding the entire time. And when you said art is provocation, I just got chills and how you were explaining it, because it's so true. It's doing this deep dive the entire time and not shutting off, which sometimes it's even kind of annoying, because you wish you would just not see things in everything that you see.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
it's everywhere. It's all the time. Like even watching reality TV, you start thinking about these things and the stories and the childhood and the things that need to be addressed, named and unnamed. Oh my goodness. I love it so much. Well, the things come to you. You're not specifically trying to write about anything, but is there like a general theme? Because we were talking before starting recording, that I love talking about women feeling empowered,
Right.
taking responsibility for their happiness, themselves, and self-love, and all the things. I know one of your books is titled Around Women. Can you tell us more about women or the topics that you usually write on in your books?
I mean, the phrase that the personal is political really just means that, in my view, that the stuff you hold dearest and feel the most ferocity around is the stuff that impacted you personally or someone close to you, right? It's the stuff you saw, you bore witness, or you experienced, right? And so a womanist, a feminist is born having experienced being unsafe because she was a girl.
Yeah.
It's, or a misogynist is born. I mean, there are a lot of women who are like recovering misogynists too. But for me, the idea that I'm trying to give my little girl self the medicine she needed. I'm trying to say to her what she needed to hear when she was in the dark. I'm trying to do that with the understanding that there are probably other little girls who are languishing in the dark, needing to hear it. Yes. I'm trying to offer myself medicine and hoping that it may bring wellness to other folks, but I'm trying to heal myself first. So when I'm talking about women or girls or issues pertaining to women and girls, it's because I so desperately needed that. I desperately needed to know that my experience was really not all that singular, that this idea that I entered middle school, I started growing breasts, and uncle figures stopped being uncle figures and started acting rapaciously. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what to do with that. And no one to talk to about it, because I felt either shame or I wasn't sure if I had done something to kind of, invite that. I wasn't sure. And I also come from women who don't bleed out loud. So what do I do? Right? I just was very, I felt like I hemorrhaged a lot, prepubescent to adolescent for me was just a lot of silent bleeding, a lot of, sort of suffering through that process, trying to make sense of my world, the world, men, boys, girls, women, my relationship to all of it. What kind of woman am I trying to grow? Is she going to be tragic? Is she going to be resentful? Like, will she even know how to show softness or vulnerability because she's warrioring so much? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, yes. I had all of that in my head. So I'm writing from that place because I needed it and I still need it. I'm still a woman who the vetting process for me is extreme. When I let someone in, man, I mean, I've moved so much furniture in my brain to do that. You know what I mean? Like, mm-hmm. I move so much furniture in my brain. And with respect to my children, I became a wolf in a very real way when I had my children. So, because then I was like, I'm not even seeking permission to protect them or to, no one needs to green light this for me.
Right.
You know, I owned every bit of that. I owned my ferocity. I meant it. I meant it in every room, you know? So I'm writing about those things because I'm still negotiating those things, and because I know that women and girls are constantly crawling out of a grave to try to just exist in a world where they're unbattered, where they're not misnamed, you know, like where they can enter rooms on their own terms. Men get to do that. Women, we go through some stuff.
Yeah. And I love how you phrased it, sharing my self-medicine in hopes that that'll going to help somebody else in understanding that our struggles are not unique. I had a guest talking about, you know, building her business as a mom, as an entrepreneur, and saying, don't take pride in your struggles. Sometimes we focus so much on that. They're not unique. What you do with them and how you react, that's different, right? That's what's unique. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that so much. So do you have anything that you want to share with us? I'm excited.
Okay, let's see here. Come up with something. Okay, a woman poem for women, poem for and about women. Let's see. I'm looking for, where is it? Oh, I think I know where it is. Well, let me read this one. So this is Believe Women. Believe women, the ones to whom vulnerability offers its slippery neck. Believe the cursed ones, the walloped ones, the loud ones on the stoop, the neck-swinging ones who cuss you out and spill their sorrow all over your bed, the ones whose demons show up when you grab her arm too tightly. Believe the unpolished ones, the sassy ones, the foul-mouthed ones. Believe the quiet ones. Let their silence reveal them. Believe the ache they keep, the nights when no rest comes. Believe the ones who name the men you love like you believe the ones who name the men you don't. Believe the ones who name the Hollywood producer, the TV dad, the Oscar winner, the Netflix series pretend president, the right now president, the senator, the governor, the mayor, the sheriff, the deacon, the priest, the camp counselor, the uncle, the talented swimmer, the frat boy who was grandfathered into an Ivy League school, the one with perfect hair and pretty white teeth and unblemished pedigree, the one who made you laugh in the coffee shop line, the one who held doors open, them too. Believe that violence visits the most unlikely bodies. Believe that a monster is not always foaming at the mouth, fanged and obvious. Believe that they hide in plain sight. Believe the wound they leave. Believe the women who all but disappeared under the crucible of war. Believe the uncertain ones, the terrified ones, the forgotten ones, the misplaced ones, the misnamed ones, the ones who crack their knees on church pews crying holy, waiting on a God they can't always find. Believe the ones who are exactly like your mother and the ones who are nothing like your mother. The ones who don't know what a feminist is or how to wear those clothes. Believe the ones who've never touched their magic or known a peaceful day. The ones who shudder in the dark and the ones who keep a knife in their purse because you won't get to do what those other men did. Believe the ones who get harassed and say nothing. Believe the ones who get harassed and say everything. Believe them when they say, I remember. Believe them when they say, I forget. Believe the ache between the two, when the body is the crime scene, when the mind a terrible lockbox. Believe the trench warfare ritual of womanness, our secrets, our omissions, our confessions. Believe us in our glory and in our horror. Believe the space we occupy and how long it took to get here, each grave we knuckled out of. Believe the untombed woman Believe this unmarked grave. Believe this ferocious knowing, the warning and the welcome, the siren and the stitches, the rape kits and the stories that never make it that far. Believe me. Believe this body, complicated with memories of a stepfather who knew better but did it anyway, did it until I was almost gone. Here is the thesis. Violence is a hex, a curse that means to stay, the one that bruises and undermines, the one that robs you of your own mouth. Be clear, this is war, but it can be won. The shrieking lady is the general. She knows where the bodies are buried. Believe her, she's a miracle. The only resurrection story that matters. Impossible. Do you hear me? Impossible in her ability to stay.
Okay. Beautiful. I love it. I will clap. Oh, that's so amazing. I just love the energy, the words. And at first, when you were reading it, I was thinking outside of myself with the stories that I didn't resonate with. And then I understood that it was me believing me as well. Yeah. The things that sometimes I don't want to hear myself say, or that I want to stuff down. And it goes back to the deep dive, the process we were talking about, that is so important for us to people and help things around.
That. It really is. It's that. And I think, my book, This is Woman's Work, it for me, it captures this, a dance that I think we all do, which is to say that, as a woman, I know I'm strong and I know I'm capable and I know I present that everywhere. One of the pitfalls of presenting that everywhere is people don't reach for strong folks to help them. They assume you always have it. Even your partner, you have to be willing to show that I don't always have it, or I can't pick that up today. You have to be willing to show that. Mm-hmm. So it's that sort of duality, that multifaceted nature of womanness, really of humanness. That is important to me, to be able to sort of show that contradiction. Because again, I know the space that I take up in a room. When I was slamming, I was conscious of the fact I'm walking out on stage, I'm 6 feet tall, I'm tattooed, you know what I'm saying? I got hair everywhere. Like, there's a story being made up about me.
Oh yeah.
So I need to unpack that and let you know, no, I have suffered. I can perform vulnerability in front of you. I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to have you reckon with all of my moving parts. I'm willing to let you thumb through all this mad history. I'm not willing to just let you be enamored, and the shiny stuff. I'm willing to show you everything.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And that's really what we should be striving for, right? Stepping into all of us. All of who we are, stepping into our light, because that's really how we can help ourselves first and then help others around us do the same for themselves. Oh, this is amazing. I am so grateful. Really made my day. And I know whoever listens to this is going to be uplifted and hopefully encouraged to do that work that we talked about. Thank you so much. I will make sure and put all your contact info in the show notes so people can go check out your work, and also some of the TEDx that you've done before as well. And I'm excited for the Mile High once it drops too. I want to watch that one again. Thank you. You're amazing.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
I don't know about you, but I had chills during the interview and while I was editing. All the feels. I used to think I could only interview people that focused on different topics. And I think because I saw women in the same space as competition, now I know better. Having someone like her confirm what I say here on the show all the time is the biggest endorsement in the world. Anyway, thinking out loud here, don't forget to check her out. All the links are in the show notes. Until next time, bye.